Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well and welcome back to the channel. So it's well and truly winter here in the UK at the moment. We've got a beautiful sunny day here at Woburn Golf Club, but I'm going to talk about how you can still play good golf in the winter around the greens. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 top tips to help you still score well despite these difficult, very soft and somewhat muddy ground conditions. So I'm going to run through number 1, how you can make sure you use the right club. Make sure you read the lie and use the right loft. Very important. Then I'm going to get into what about when you're pitching the ball. So you're pitching from maybe 30, 40, 50 yards away off a very wet surface. Okay, tough shot. We'll show you how to manage that better. How also you can play out of that wet, sticky rough where it's a bit puddly and a bit muddy underneath. Then we'll get into the bunker and talk about how you manage the wet, compact sand. And then also I'll finish with some putting tips, okay, on these wet, footprinty greens that we tend to get. So let's get started. Let's first talk about a shot here out to that back pin where there's lots of green to work with, but we are chipping from a lie that is very wet. Okay, it's soaking wet. Now in the summertime, if we were doing this video say in June or July and this green gets very quick, I'd recommend using a bit more loft, maybe a 52, 56, because we're looking to try and create spin and check so the ball can just creep and just roll out to the hole like a putt. But you know, this time of year, there's a 56 I'm using here. Even if I use a release 1, I've played a really nice shot there, but you can see how the ball is sticking, like it's come up 12, 15 feet short of the hole. Played a lovely shot. Like the shot was really good. I struck it really nicely, but it just had too much spin on the ball. And you can chip with this, of course, still in the winter, but look, it's very hard to get there. And I think if the vast majority of you were playing this shot with this club and say you had 10 goes, unless you thin one, I think probably 8 of them would come up short if you're using too much loft. So, and the other downside as well is when you're using your specialist wedges, your sand wedges, they've got quite a wide sole, okay, so it would be very easy when it's soft for that sole to dig into the ground a little bit too much. Look how much divot was made there. If I'd done that in June and July, if it was dry, there's no divot been made there at all. So it's just difficult, it's just hard to get the strike, and it's hard to control the spin and be bold enough to throw it like 90% of the way there, which is what you have to do if you're using too much loft. It's much easier going to less loft. Firstly, your angle of attack when you use less loft shallows out. The club wants to brush the turf more, okay? So you're likely to get a safer contact. The narrower sole on 7, 8, 9 irons, easier just to get the strike. But the main benefit, when you use less loft, the ball speed goes up because the spin goes down. That means the ball is likely to roll out and it's going to get through the very slow, wet green just an awful lot easier. So I'm going to use a 7 iron here. I can land it around about a quarter of the way, and because of the club choice I've used, you'll see I won't be struggling to manage the spin here because it's going to want to run out. You can see that's running out. There, I hit the ball. That's the downside of leaving balls in your way, you see, when you leave them short. Right, so and again, let's use that 7 iron again. And you can see how that's wanting to run out. Okay, another one. Right, I'm going to aim a little bit right, see if I can miss those balls again. So you can see how this ball, there you go, can you see here? We should miss the balls this time. But you can see how that ball's running towards the hole, okay? A little bit aggressive there, but you can see it's never getting stuck. I really don't like to see my chip shots short of the hole. You can see that one there running out very easily. So the 7 iron, it's a great choice, okay? It's a really simple club choice. If you don't like a 7, if it comes off a little bit hot for you, maybe go to a 9. A 9 is another good option. Obviously, it's going to spin a touch more, but same sort of idea. A little bit of check, but you can see how it's wanting to run out. And you can't beat just a little bit of practice when you're up at your club. Just do a few chip shots and just see how the ball's reacting. So I'm hitting some there, and that 9 is actually slightly struggling to get there. So do you know what we'll do now? We'll go to the 8. So 7 was a little bit strong, 9 was a little bit weak. Let's go for an 8. And this is what you should all be doing. Just a bit of trial and error. Figure out which club is best for different pins. And you can see that 8 there, it's checking, but that's wanting to run out a little bit more. Just hit another ball. But that was going to be really close. And you can see this is perfect. It's just going to run around it. There we go. So with a bit of trial and error, 8 is the right club. 8 is the right club for this shot. and the chip and run, really simple. Didn't miss hit any of those. If I'd have had 10 goes from a 56, I probably would have miss hit one because the ground is so soft. So rule number one, winter golf, make it easy, use less loft, have less spin, get the ball running out, and don't be too worried about the spin on these soft greens. Right, so rule number two, to really enjoy your golf still this winter and manage these conditions, when you're pitching that awkward 30 to 80 yard shot, it's a shot that, you know, is a difficult shot all times of the year, but particularly when it's like this. I found the dampest area I can here on the short game area at Woburn here, and it's wet, it's muddy, there's actually a little bit of standing water here, okay, it's coming up around my shoe, and yeah, this is the sort of conditions you're going to get a lot. A lot of you are playing on these conditions a lot, and it is difficult. The first thing you have to do is understand how difficult this is. You have to be so precise on strike. Where in summer, if you hit it a little bit behind, you'd barely notice, it's a nice shot. If you hit it behind a touch when the lie is like this, you are going to get a face full of mud. And hands up at home if you've done that, okay? I guess that's a shot a lot of you get, face full of mud and the ball goes nowhere. Pretty depressing shot all round. So forget release 2 pitching in the winter. I would just totally forget it. Save it for the summer. Release 2, you can release the club. You're obviously trying to return it with the shaft more neutral. Great for hitting that higher spinning, really soft landing shot. But this time of year, crikey, I wouldn't trust it, okay? So save that for the summer when it's a little bit firm. When it's this wet, everything release 1, okay, when you're pitching. The ball will come in a little bit hotter, a little bit lower, a little bit quicker. But because the greens are going to be really soft, unless you're playing on a frozen day, that's a different video. Generally the greens are going to be really soft and like pudding-like. That means even if it's coming low, it will still stop. So just release 1 everything. So I've got a 56 here, totally out of a little bit of mud here, look. So I'm going to play the ball position a little bit further back than normal. I'm going to go just inside my right heel, add a little bit more shaft lean, and always make sure every pitch shot you have your left shoulder over your foot, so you get a nice pivot line at address. That's really important. Last thing you want to do when you're pitching from these sort of conditions is move side to side. Just a recipe for miss hits. So really get forward, a little bit of shaft lean, down the grip a little bit more can help you as well. And you're still looking to rotate your body, but add in a little bit more wrist hinge. Okay. So a little bit more wrist hinge, and don't allow the face to open. So feel like your right arm just stays a little bit more on top. Like the line there, the leading edge there is more in line with your spine. That's a good tip really to get the ball first contact. Make sure you're leading with the hands, a little bit of chest turn, and just hit it a tiny bit quicker maybe than you ordinarily would. A little bit more commitment to these is good from these lies, okay? So touch more speed. So there we go, we've got the basics. Let's see if we can get that release 1 strike. That's pretty good, I'd absolutely take that. Even there though, I still got a face full of mud. Still got it. So you have to be so realistic. I mean, I got enough of the ball and actually a decent shot. But you can see how the divot has got deeper as it's got longer. That's the important thing here. We are trying to make sure we're getting down into the back of the ball. Okay, a little bit more opening up the chest there. But you can see how that's gone in quite low, but it's still stopping. Like for that front pin, that's probably as close as I can get it if I'm going with this release 1 technique. There we go, pretty good. Try to be a little bit cuter there, but that's on the front edge. So that's if you have got to go in the air a little bit, try more of that release 1. Obviously, if you've got a 58, maybe that might, or even a 60, you know, you could pitch with that, because when you're taking more off, more shaft lean, okay, you might as well start with a little bit more loft to begin with. So I've hit this a little bit further this time. I'm going to go, forget the pin, I'm just going to hit 1 towards the back of the green here. It's the same thing, just a little bit more speed of the chest, and I can start opening up and getting it right out there towards the back of the green. But you can see how it's very much on that release 1 follow through. I'm not releasing it, okay. I could do a release 2, okay, but I would have to be absolutely perfect. Let's give it a go. I'll give myself a really wet lie like that. Okay, so I'm going to try and do a release 2. This is on really from a wet muddy lie now. I managed to pick it absolutely perfectly, but I was perfect there. Very different divot, you see. So just think about it. If you feel highly skilled and you feel quite confident with release 2, still give it a go. But I do think that back in the stance and sort of hands ahead with a bit of speed will suit most of you. And probably if you have a little bit more green, I wouldn't recommend using that amount of loft. One of the shots that I think has been slightly forgotten in time is pitching with less loft. So that front pin is totally the wrong club unless I wanted to bump one into the bank. But let's say the pin is further on. Haven't really got a suitable pin here, but imagine it's further on towards the back of the bunker. Nothing wrong with a pitching wedge, the actual pitching wedge out the set. And don't have to play the balls as far back this time. Play this in the centre or even just forward of centre, down the grip, and just make a little connected swing. Don't think too much about your release here. Just think about rotating your body, quite quiet wrists. And that is a super repeatable, very, very easy shot to play. Look, barely any ground disturbance. Very easy to play from wet conditions. So this would probably be my preferred option if you've got maybe 20 yards of green to work with. So you can land that, say 5 on, and it will run out around about 15. This is so easy to play. Pitch and wedge down the grip, little turn, don't have to hit it hard, and you can see you can clip that off the top really, really easily. So please give that a go. I think for a lot of you, that would be the safest shot from these really wet, muddy lies. Okay, so let's get on to the third rule, which is playing out of this deep, wet rough. Okay, so third rule, we're in the rough now, and it's really wet. It's pretty thick, and it just settles down, even worse than that, really settles down, and it's muddy underneath. So in the summertime, I've talked about some video, I've got some videos out on how to play out the rough, and often it's hard pan, isn't it, underneath? So it's hard pan with the rough on top. And what I sort of advise there is you get nice and wide and you really lean forward this way, nice high right shoulder, down the grip with shaft lean, and you pick it up and hit down. And that works really well in the summertime, really, really well, because it stops the club kicking too much and you just pop it out. Now, you can see there when I did a practice swing, how when the club hits the ground, you can see how it's basically getting stuck in the ground. I mean, it's just totally buried. So there's a good chance if I try that technique now from that lie, it will just dig in and the ball will go absolutely nowhere. So I would want to make sure I'm still have some steepness to it in terms I still want to make sure I'm swinging the club out in front and across. So the shaft is up fairly steep in the backswing, but I want to be a little bit shallow with the strike. I don't want to be hitting down so aggressively. So what I'm going to do is use the toe here. So I'm going to open the club up. I've got my 60 here, by the way, which is probably the right shot from this sort of lie to that front pin. But I'm going to go toe down, very high handle, aim left, which is going to help the shaft go across the ball and the path go left. But I'm going out and across. The release is 1.5. Like I'm just letting the club go a little bit, but the club is going across, but I'm not swinging massively downward. That's the key. I'm not getting really deep into it. And it should hopefully still pop out fine. So toe down, across, get the shaft up nice and high, and don't hit down quite so much. Just brush it a little bit more. It still comes out nicely. I mean, came out a little bit soft, strike was great. That's the other thing you've got to understand as well, and I think a lot of people don't quite understand the difficulty of playing out of the rough, and there are so many different things going on down there, grass growing in different directions, different moisture, different conditions underneath, that sometimes they just come out a little bit softer, but the strike was good. Now this one I've got, and you won't see it, but there's a big like worm cast right behind the ball, right? So I'm going to go toe down as well. I'm just going to lean a little bit more into it to avoid the worm cast. So I'm going to go out to in and just pop that one out. Okay, you can see how it's gone down, but I've not ploughed down, which I might do more in the summer. So hopefully this will just help you read the lies a little bit better. Okay, so same thing there. That's not too bad, but it's still a shot I don't want to hit down too much on. So I'm going to go toe down, scythe across it. And I can get that coming out really soft and really, really nicely. Again, barely any ground disturbance. So this is quite useful for you to know. That's in a bit of mud. That's a terrible one there. But there is no such thing as a bad lie, okay? It's really muddy. Toe down, slice it across it. That came out really nicely, that one, without a big divot. So, yeah, so that's the big difference. In summer, you can dig a bit more. In winter, get it out to in, get the shaft up in front of you, but use the toe of the club with the high handle just to kind of scythe across, slice across it a little bit more. and it won't dig in as much. But remember, it's a tough shot. Really from here, getting down in 3 isn't a bad result. What you don't want to do is take 4. So another challenge in the winter is the sand, the bunkers. Get a lot of rain, it compacts the sand like we've got here, okay? This is pretty compact. So as I've said in many videos, bunker play, for me, there are 2 options. You either splash the sand underneath, okay? You splash the sand with release and the sand goes under the ball, it creates height and spin. Or you squeeze the sand under the ball. I can't splash this sand under the ball, it just won't happen. It's not loose enough, it won't go underneath it. If I try to splash it, there's a good chance it will bounce and I will thin the ball over the other side of the green. So I need to squeeze, so I need to get steeper. So I definitely go towards my 60. Has a bit less bounce on my 60. I have 7 degrees of bounce on this 60, and it's a little bit more of a cambered sole at the front. It's shaved down, which means it's a little bit neater. It helps me dig a little bit more. So if you've got a 60, perhaps use it. I would now be playing the ball position rather than standard, which would be left heel. I will shuffle, so that line is in the middle of my stance, and I will add in shaft lean. So if you draw another line, basically towards your left heel, that is where the shaft line should be. And you can see how all my weight is always on the lower body for every single bunk shot I hit, but now the upper body goes with it. So you can see how by setting it like this, that's going to get my club working more in a downward fashion. It helps me squeeze the sand under the ball and still lift the ball out with some feel and some spin. So we're down the grip, a little bit of shaft lean, down here, up early. When you're working from compact sand, don't rotate. Rotating this way is a shallowing ingredient, good for splashing, but not good for squeezing. So you're going to pick it up with your hands and arms, down, and very much to release 1. Butt of the grip, just on the left hook, short finish. Don't go longer finish from these type of lies. So something like this, up, down, and you can see you're still getting a really nice contact. Spin came there, the spin, you have to wait for the 3rd bounce. One thing you won't get from a lie like this is that first bounce where it just stops dead, because you just can't get the spin, but you have to wait for it. 1 bounce, 2 bounce, then the spin. Let's try that again. So down here, loads of shaft lean, up with the arms, down, and there we go. That got a bit more spin, that one. But you can see how the divots are getting deeper as they're getting longer. So I'm squeezing that sand under the ball. I'm working the sand in a downward fashion this way. And the sand still goes underneath it, okay. Need a little bit more speed. It's a bit like striking a match. You just got to make sure you play down. When I do see some of you playing this shot, it's like you kind of over-respect it. I've given this lie all the respect it deserves in my setup. I've put the ball a bit further back, I've put shaft lean in, I've taken the bounce off, I've lent my body more that way, I've given it the respect it needs. I just need to play the shot fairly calmly. I don't need to kill it. It's a little bit of commitment, as I said, but there's not a massive amount of movement, you see. I just put the club down there behind it. Some of you look like you're trying to kill a snake in the sand. I mean, you are just going at it so hard, and particularly from these lies, because you're sort of panicking a bit. But you can see, if you get the setup right, get the angle of attack right, you don't need to go after it. So that's an important point as well. On the longer bunker shots, when you do get these compact lies, it almost does you a favour. It makes the shot easier. So let's say I'm going up the green now, and I'm going to play sort of a 30-yard shot. So I would perhaps not go to the 9-iron and wedge, which I'll often do in the summer. More sand, I want to skip it. I've got to really release it a bit more. But what I can do is, I've gone to a 52 now, and almost play it like a normal shot. Like a normal shot. So I'm not going to lean into it and squeeze so much. I'm going to play it with a left heel position with a shaft neutral. Almost let the lie slightly kick it to send it there. Okay, it might sound a bit risky, but once you practice this a little bit, it's actually not difficult at all. So I'm intentionally letting this bounce a bit to help it get down there towards the target. So 52, ball position left heel, shaft in line. I'm going to do my splash shot, knowing it's wrong for this lie, but it might be right for that distance, if that makes sense. Let's give that a go. So 50. You see, that kicked a little bit, which helped the ball get down there. Yeah, not too bad. Let's try that again. Yeah, I felt that bounce. And you can see how that's rolling out there towards the pin. Yeah, that's perfect there, 2-3 feet from the hole there. I can feel as it's landing, it's kicking. Not a nice feeling for me because I know it's not quite right. But when you got these longer bunker shots, it's actually quite a nice way of doing it. Down there as well, a little bit too much spin on that one. But that's something to think about on the longer bunker shots. Almost let it bounce to get it there. And that also can be quite useful rather than doing it with a 9-iron, which can get a little bit difficult when there's no sand at all, when it's really compact. So hopefully that will help you in these compact bunkers. Let's finish with a few putts to really help you through the winter. So we've made sure you get the right club in your hand, you understand how to pitch better, you understand how to play better shots out the rough and the bunkers. Now, of course, you've got to finish the job off on the greens. Now, what happens in the winter on the greens? They're obviously very, very soft because of the rain. You tend to get footprints and you've got to hit the putts much, much harder. They're much slower, basically, than the summer. So this sort of lovely stroked, smooth stroke that we might use in the, oh, look at that, crept in the front door, we might use in the summer, that would be great. But in the winter, give it a little bit more of a wrap. Just increase the beat of the stroke a little bit more. So it's a bit more 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So a little bit more speed. Let's just try and give it a little bit more energy, right? So it's 1, 2. You can see how it's running into the hole with a bit more authority, past the hole, okay? In the winter, it's so easy to leave them short. It's a little bit more of a beat. Okay, so it runs into the hole with a little bit more speed to it. So that's the first thing I would say. Just understand they are slow. You have to hit them a little bit harder. Now, because of that, you're going to have to slightly forget what your eyes see, because obviously you're always looking for the break, aren't you? You're looking behind it. You might be looking, saying, okay, this is slightly right to left. Or it might be in summer, it might be 2 balls outside right, but actually this time of the year it's maybe right edge. So when the greens get slower, the grass gets longer, to protect them, you have to allow less break. A lot of the time in the winter, because you're hitting it with a little bit more authority, just aim it pretty much dead straight at the hole, obviously within reason. I mean, that didn't move, that was just absolutely dead straight. In the summer, I'd have to be allowing quite a bit of break on that one. So make sure you understand that, because what our eyes see is very hard to go against what we see. And we know, we play a lot in the summer, don't we? We get to know the greens of the golf course we're on, and we see the breaks, and then suddenly gets in the winter time and they're not moving. So bear that in mind. Really make sure you look at the break and give it a little bit more speed, just increase the beat of the stroke. Also, when you're playing out, say, at the back of the green, let's say, what's that, sort of 25 feet to the fringe there, just allow yourself to have a touch of wrist hinge in there. Again, that's going to help you get the ball out towards the fringe rather than keeping your nice normal pendulum stroke. I'm not going crazy, look, but there's a touch of hinge in there, and that just helps me give it a lot more authority right through, so it runs out towards the fringe. Much, much easier on these slow 25, 30, 40 foot putts. Just give it a little bit more beat. You can see I can get it there very easily. If I was doing that with my pendulum stroke, which would be perfect in summer where the greens are quick, I might struggle to get it there. So a little bit of hinge, a little bit of a pop, and I can easily get it running out there towards the fringe. So a few very simple little points there. Increase the beat of the stroke, put a bit of wrist hinge on your longer ones, and allow a little bit less break. And the final point when you're putting as well, don't be too hard on yourself. You are going to miss more putts this time of year because you're playing through footprints. You can hit a footprint and go off at an angle. The greens aren't perfect, okay? The green staff do an amazing job at keeping the greens open, but they're nothing like the summer in terms of the roll and the purity of it. So just be realistic, okay? You are going to miss some putts. You've got to try and stay on top of your basics, know whether you made the putt you were trying to make. Whether it goes in or not, that's a separate conversation, okay? So be a bit easy on yourself when you're playing in winter conditions on the greens. So hopefully this video has helped you. It's going to help you enjoy your golf, enjoy your short game, even through the challenging winter months when it is very, very soft. Remember, less loft for your chip shots. Don't do too many release 2 shots. When you're pitching, release 1 pitching, okay? Don't forget that pitching wedge lower shot out the rough. Don't get too steep. That sort of out and across with a 60 using toe work quite well. In the bunkers, get steeper. You've got to squeeze the sand a little bit more. And when you're putting, just add a little bit more speed, and that will help you enjoy your golf and shoot lower scores. And I'll see you next time.